Mr. Beat presents Presidential Elections in American History. The 16th presidential election in American history took place on Tuesday, November 7th, 1848. This was the first election that took place on the same day in every state. By law, from this point forward, Election Day would be on a Tuesday. James Polk had spent the past 4 years kicking butts and taking names. Every major objective he had going into office was accomplished. He had got half of Oregon without going to war with Britain, got the northern half of Mexico by bullying them into a war, he reduced the tariff, and he created an independent treasury. Satisfied with accomplishing his goals, he promised not to run for re-election. His health was actually declining anyway, and he would die of cholera 3 months after leaving office, having the shortest retirement of all presidents in American history. In his place, the Democratic Party nominated Lewis Cass, who since 1844 had become a senator for Michigan. Cass beat out Martin Van Buren for the nomination, who was no longer having luck with the political party he helped create. The Democrats nominated William Orlando Butler to run with Cass, a general who had recently fought in the Mexican-American War. Martin Van Buren, upset and perhaps bitter at losing to Cass for the nomination, found a new political party, the Free Soil Party, led by Salmon P. Chase and John Parker Hale. Mostly based out of New York, the party called for ending the expansion of slavery out west. Most of their support came from anti-slavery Democrats, but some Whigs also joined their cause. Van Buren was their nominee, with Charles Francis Adams, son of John Quincy Adams and grandson of John Adams, as his running mate. Partially because of the rise of the Free Soil Party, the Liberty Party lost most of its support. They did nominate Gerrit Smith, brother-in-law to their former presidential nominee, James Birney. Keep it in the family. What about the Whigs? Well, General Zachary Taylor of Louisiana was an attractive candidate because he was a war hero leading American forces to victories in the Mexican-American War. Here's the thing though, he wasn't very political and had never even voted in an election himself. In fact, this is why Taylor was courted by both the Whig Party and the Democratic Party. Few knew exactly where he stood on major issues. Taylor decided to declare himself as a Whig though, and easily won their nomination, beating out big names like Henry Clay, Daniel Webster, and fellow Mexican-American war hero Winfield Scott. Millard Fillmore, a former U.S. representative and the controller of New York, was Taylor's running mate. The campaigns were pretty chill this year, with no major issues that sharply divided the parties. I say that because the Free Soil Party had a small chance of actually winning because they weren't on the ballot in several states. In the early part of the Mexican-American War, the Whigs mostly criticized James Polk for his recklessness that led to the war. However, after the United States kicked butt in the war, now the Whigs had seemed to forget this and were glorifying General Taylor's war success. Taylor himself was pretty vague about where he stood on the issues, though. This was the first election in which citizens of the new states of Florida, Texas, Iowa, and Wisconsin could all cast votes. And here are the results. Zachary Taylor won, becoming the 12th president of the United States. This was the Whig Party's second and last presidential win, but they would remain a force for several years. Taylor received 163 electoral votes. Lewis Cass received 127 electoral votes. Martin Van Buren and Gerrit Smith didn't receive any. Taylor received 47.3% of the popular vote to Cass's 42.5%, Van Buren's 10.1%, and Smith's 0.1%. Millard Fillmore became the 12th vice president in American history. This was the first of two presidential elections where the two leading candidates evenly split the states for the electoral vote. Historian George Pierce Garrison wrote of this election, quote, "Practically the only thing it decided was that a Whig general should be made president because he had done effective work in carrying on a Democratic war." Had Taylor ran as a Democrat, he likely still would have won the election, so the Whigs lucked out by getting him. I'll see you for the next election, buddy.